Okay, so today we'll start probably the last topic of the course, which is called optimization. We'll be talking about two basic questions arising in optimization, very classical. Well, in this area, something started in the 50s, considered to be classical. And also they have very simple algorithms, how one can find a good solution for those. And it will also involve trees, the topic we talked about last time. So let me briefly recall a little bit what we did last time. And but before I do this, I want to mention that, and it's good if it's recorded so people will see this. So except for today, we have two more lectures with new material, number 13 and 14. Then we'll have one more meeting in December. Well, we talk a little bit about how the exam would be organized. I'll probably go through one old exam, but the exam itself would be the first. The usual would be on January 13, and then there will be another opportunity in February. And apparently, due to Corona, you'll get a written exam to be done at home, but then we have to talk also. It will be complemented with some kind of oral communication. I'm still working this out with our with our undergraduate program coordinator, but they know they have similar things in all the major courses now. So apparently it will be, I would guess, except for the written work, maybe something like 45 minutes discussion up to an hour with a student afterwards. But I'll let you know as soon as I know the details. Okay, good. So last time we were talking about trees, and trees are connected graphs with a minimal number of edges. So there is an both directed version and undirected version. We're mainly talking about the undirected version. So we were talking about undirected graphs, and connected undirected graphs with no loops are called trees. So a major result classification, very simple result there, is that if you have a tree with n vertices, then it should necessarily connect n minus one less number of edges. And another characterization, so self-study equaling, so no lecture that day. I'm not sure about this. I think we're still, let's see. So today is 10th, so it's in 2 weeks. I think we'll have a lecture on December 17. At least I plan this, because we still have 2 lectures with new material to go through. Okay. Yes, so another characterization of a tree is still that it's a connected graph such that between any two vertices there are exactly one connecting path possible, no more. As soon as you have 2 paths between 2 vertices, they necessarily contain a certain cycle. Good. And now a natural question arises. So there is a notion of a spanning tree in a given graph. So a spanning tree is a subtree of a given graph containing all possible vertices. And spanning trees are important, especially in study of traffic situations and also in the study of electrical circuits, where they definitely, and in chemistry as well. So a natural question is, given a connected graph, does it always contain a spanning tree? And the obvious answer is yes, of course. How can you do this? Well, you can get a spanning tree by just killing all possible cycles. in your graph. So what you do, you start with a tree. Start with a graph, a connected graph. If it contains a cycle, remove any edge from this cycle. And if you do this, the remaining graph will still necessarily be connected. And the number of edges will decrease. And you do this till you'll kill all the cycles. Just if there is still a cycle, you take it and remove one edge. So in this way, you can obviously obtain a spanning tree from a given graph. And an interesting result, which I mentioned to you last time, but it's not in the book, is there is a nice way to count the number of all possible spanning trees. It's a result of Kirchhoff. Very nice determinantal formula, quite important and useful in many situations. Then we were discussing rooted trees as well. The last thing we talked last time was rooted trees, and the rooted tree is a tree where one vertex is separate, is special. It's called the root. And if you have a rooted tree, then you can arrange all other vertices according to their distance to the root. Yes, so we know that in a rooted in a tree there is a unique path between any two vertices. In particular, if we will say, so we put level 0 to the root, and then we put level 1 to all vertices which are adjacent to the root. And then we put level 2 to those vertices which are adjacent to level 1, but not the root, and so on and so on and so on. So we can, with a rooted tree, we can naturally stratify or associate level to all its vertices. Another thing which is natural for rooted trees, that you can also order its vertices so-called lexicographically. This order is not unique, but it's unique up to, well, it's unique up to natural isomorphism. So it's unique in the following meaning. So if you, for any tree will, for any vertex in a rooted tree, if, say, by children of a given vertex, you call all vertices on the next level. Say if your vertex has level I, you look at all vertices of level I plus 1 which are adjacent to your given vertex. So you call those children. And if you, for each vertex, can choose an order of all its children, and do this for every vertex. Say you start with the root, you have all vertices of level 1, which are adjacent to it, of course. All of them should be adjacent. You order them in some way. You say this guy is the first one, this guy is the second one, this is the third one. Then the natural way to think about this is to think really about children of a certain person. And for children, you usually have a natural order according to the age, of course. Yes, so this guy is the oldest, this is the next one, and so on and so on. And then if you look at each vertex of level 1, you look at its children and order them in a certain way, whatever you want. Again, if we're thinking about families, you can order children by age, and so on and so on. And then once you do that, you get a complete order on yeah, I see that I have a message. Do I have an internet problem? Hello? Do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. because I got this. Please let me know at once if there is something special. I don't, since I have no real contact, that's a little bit annoying. Let me just check one certain thing. Yeah, I'll switch my Wi-Fi just 1 second, so I'll be away for a second. Hello? Does it work now? Should be better. The signal should be better.
It's just the frame rate, he said. It's the videos. The video is kind of slow, but it works.
Okay, good. Okay. So let me continue so we can move to the material of today. Yeah, and yeah, so then we have a global ordering on all vertices in the following way. So to each vertex of in a rooted tree, you can associate its unique path connecting it to the root. It starts with the root, then one of the root's children, one of children of the children, and so on. And if we have two vertices, so there are paths to each of that. And so we're looking, say they start with the root, so this guy coincides for them. Hello?
Hello, we can hear you now again.
Okay, gosh. So I don't know what happened actually. So where I live, the Wi-Fi is not so good. Okay, so okay, good. Yeah, so let's move on. So for a given vertex, for a given pair of vertices, we have paths connecting them to the root, and we compare those paths. They start with the same element root, and now there is some first place where these paths are different. So the sequence of vertices connecting them to the root is different. And at that point, these two elements in the corresponding paths are siblings, so to say. They're children of one and the same element, and therefore they are ordered. One of them is assigned to be bigger than the other. And so those who is bigger will lexicographically, so the vertex which is connected to the bigger one is assigned to be bigger than the other vertex. That's how we kind of order the whole thing, all vertices in a rooted graph, by taking the path to the root and comparing the first non-equal elements. Okay, good. Now it's definitely time for us to move to today's topic. And I really hope everything will work. Gosh. Okay. So today, and I think next time, we'll be talking about optimization in graphs. And this, again, is one of the very natural, one of the very first problems which one wants to relate to graphs in its practical application. We start with the notion of a weighted graph. So, and this works both for directed and undirected graphs. Doesn't make any serious difference. So, and a weighted graph is a graph with a weight function. So a weighted graph consists of three things: the set of vertices, the set of wedges, and also a weight function. So where the weight function is a map from the set of edges to positive numbers. So to positive numbers. Okay, yeah, we can draw some simple example. So say we have something like this, and we can assign just numbers. And there is a natural interpretation of those numbers. If you think that this is a traffic net, so you can think that those numbers, say, tell you how long time it takes for you to drive from one point to the other. If you assume that you're, say, traveling with some kind of average velocity, around 70 kilometers, I don't know. Or it could be resistance in the network, for example, electrical network. So there are many, many natural things one can associate to weighted graphs. So they really appear naturally in many, many contexts. Okay, now if we have weights on edges, then we can associate distance function. So a distance function would be a function defined on pairs of vertices. It's a function from v cross v to, again, to positive numbers, which is for and the union with possibly plus infinity, yes. So which is for any v and w in v. So let me call it d maybe, or dist. So dist of v and w is the minimal sum of weights of all edges in paths connecting v and w. So just the sum of the edges. And it can very well happen that the distance in some graph doesn't have to be realized on a path with minimal number of edges. If we take some simple example, say I have a small example here. Say if I'll be putting weights like this, and say I want the distance between the edge. So the distance between v and w would be what? So we have two natural paths connecting v and w. One goes, say, call it u, and maybe call this, say, z. So we have a path v to u to w, and its length is 4, 2 plus 2. So it would be the minimum of 4. And there is another path going. So this is v, u, and w. Now if we take another path, v, z, u, w, it has 3 edges in it, but it's 1 plus 1.5 plus 2, its total length would be 3.5. So the actual distance would be 3.5, and it's realized by a path with more edges. And we know this from practice. It's not that the shorter way between 2 points has to have the minimal number of turns. It could be, it could be something else, of course. Okay. So let me tell you one simple proposition. Yeah, I probably forgot to mention that it can be plus infinity also. If two vertices cannot be connected by a path, if they lie in different connected components, then there is no path connecting them. And in this case, we say that there is an infinite distance. So it's also a natural agreement to do. Okay, so what do we have? So distance has natural properties of a metric. Maybe you have heard those words of a metric. Well, I'll write those down. First of all, so distance of VW is big or equal than 0, and additionally, distance equals to 0 if and only if V equals W. So this is the first property. So the second property is that distance is a symmetric thing. So here I'll be talking about non-directed graphs. If we'll be talking about directed graphs, so it could be that, so then we need to take directed paths connecting V and W to V. Then distance doesn't have to be symmetric. But for non-directed graph, distance is obviously symmetric. We can go along the same path from V to W and back. And finally, distance satisfies the triangle inequality, which is the most important, meaning the distance from U to W is small or equal than the sum of the distances from U to V and plus the distance from V to W. So that's the usual inequality for the distances in all, which is valid in all situations you probably have ever encountered in your mathematical studies. Okay. So what is it that I want to do further? So our next thing would be so natural problem. So given a weighted graph, so it would be V, E, and W, and its vertex, say V naught, find the shortest distances between V naught and all other vertices, and all other vertices in V. So I'm giving you a graph, and I want you to find me what are, and I'm choosing some vertex. Say I have a traffic net of Sweden, and I'm saying you start at Västerås. Can you determine what is the best way to go from Västerås to all other major cities in Sweden, for example? Okay, and there is a very nice algorithm to do this, which is due to a Dutch mathematician, Dijkstra. So I think it was formulated when I was born, sometimes in the 50s, quite an old thing, but it's now implemented in many computer programs. It's really a simple thing. There is no you cannot find an answer in form of formula, but it's really the so-called greedy algorithm. It's very, very quick, and it allows you to work with nets of enormous number of vertices and edges. So it's really a quick thing. Okay, so an algorithm works as follows. Okay, so step so okay. Yeah. Okay, so the input of an algorithm should be, I don't know, the adjacency matrix and the weights of all edges, and the output should be the set of weights, the set of lengths from this chosen vertex V0 to all other vertices in your graph. And even a nice thing of this algorithm, it will also tell you, if you look a little bit more carefully at its output, it will tell you it will provide you with the shortest routes, how you should travel. If you want to travel from V0 to any other vertex W, it will tell you also how you should travel. Okay, so what you do, step one, so assign to each vertex in G. Let me call this graph as G. In G, its initial label in the following manner. So V0 will get the label, I don't know, star and 0. Star means that, or if you want V0 here, maybe. And all others, VIs, which are not V0, would be assigned a label V0 and plus infinity. This would be kind of initialization of our procedure. So, and we'll be also creating a set of vertices, which we'll call, say, S, and which will change. This will initially only consider our vertex V0. Okay, step 2, this would be the major step, is if S contains all vertices, all vertices, then we are done. If not, then we do the following. And this is the most important thing. Okay, for each vertex not in S, look, check if there exists a vertex in S such that So such that this such that its current distance okay, so I have to maybe denote for each vertex W, which is not in S. Check if there is this vertex V in S such that, okay, so let me call this value, which is on the first place, on the second place here, as L of VI. I'll give you an illustration that its current distance L of V plus the weight the weight of V and W is strictly smaller than L of W. So if there is a vertex in S adjacent to W, okay, if there is such a guy, then change the label of W to, you will be putting at the first place of this label this vertex V, and at the second position you'll be putting L of V plus the weight of the edge between V and W. Okay, when you have done this for all vertices not in S, so after doing this, for all vertices in the complement, of S, choose the one with the minimal L of W and add it to S. And then you should repeat step 2 as soon as, as long as it's possible. So there are two situations when you will terminate the algorithm. It's either you get all vertices already in S, then you have found all the shortest distance, or you are in the situation that all vertices in the complement to S have this label at the second position plus infinity. That means that they lie in another connected component. You cannot reach any of them from your initial vertex V naught. So in the case of disconnected graph, you will be in this way constructing, your algorithm will terminate while you construct shortest paths within its connected component, and to the remaining vertices which lie outside this connected component, the distance would be plus infinity and nothing can be done about this. Okay. Otherwise, if your original graph is connected, then your algorithm will be terminating when you'll include in S all edges of the graph. Okay, so let me show you how this works in practice. It's a nice thing. I have 3 examples here, maybe. Okay, so let me start with the simpler one. So it's really a simple algorithm. I think when you work it out for a couple of examples, you'll immediately understand how it works. Say we have a fairly simple graph with only 4 vertices and 4 edges. Say V1. Here you have 1, 2, and this is, say, weight 1/2, and say this is weight 2, and I label the vertices as V2 here, V3 here, and V4. And V1 is my original vertex I want to start with. Okay, so step 1, I'm initializing everything. Step 1. So S, my set, is contained only of the vertex V1. Now my labels are, so I'll call them F. So F of V1 is V1 and 0. F of V2 is, I'm putting V1 here and plus infinity. F of V3 is V1 plus infinity. So that means that I haven't found any paths connecting V1 to my other vertices so far. Okay, now first iteration. So I will be doing my step 2 the first time. Iteration 1 of step 2. So what is it that I have to do? I have to look at all vertices which are outside S, so V2, V3, V4, and see if there is an edge connecting me to elements in S, in this case to V1. And so my current weights are plus infinity here, so they're extremely big. So if there is an edge connecting my vertex, say, which I consider V2 to V1, and the weight of V1 itself is 0, and the sum of 0 plus this edge is bigger than infinity in this case, then I'm happy. I'm substituting my current label by, at the second position, I'll be putting the length of the path instead of infinity. So what should I do with V2? If I look at V2, now my label would be, I can connect V2 with V1 by an edge of weight 1, yes? So I'm writing V1 here, and instead of plus infinity, I'll be writing 2. Okay. Now, what about V3? V3 I can again connect to V1 by an edge of length 1. So at this stage, this means that I have found paths connecting V2 to V1 of length 2 and V3 to V1 of length 1. What about V4? Well, V4 is not connected to my current set S. So, oops, can I get rid of this thing? Good. So I'm still keeping its label. So far, I can't do anything about V4. So it's not connected to my current set S. So its label stays the same for the time being. Okay, now what do I do? I'm looking at so I went through all my elements, which are in the complement to my current set S. And before I finish the iteration, I need to find the guy who has the least current length of the path. And this would be this thing. This would be minimum. And I'm adding, that means that I'll be adding this vertex to my list S. So S is now will consist of V1 and V2 and V3, I'm sorry, V3. So my current set S has increased, and after that I will never return to V3. I'll not be considering V3 anymore. So that means that I have found the path of minimal possible length between my original vertex V1 and V3. So nothing has to be done with V3 anymore. Okay, I'm re-entering my step 2. Okay, now my complement consists of 2 vertices, V2 and V4. Now I have to look again. So is there a path to my new set S, which now consists of these 2 guys, V1 and V3, which is shorter than my current label. My current label of V2 is 2. And there is, in fact, I can go, there is this thing, the current label of V3 is 1. And if I'm looking at this edge, its length, its weight is 1/2. 1 plus 1/2 is smaller than 2. So I'm changing my label. So the label of V2 would be now, I have to go through V3, and the total length would be 3/2. So on the previous step, I found one path between V1 and V2, which was of length 2, but now I found a shorter path, which goes V1, V3 to V2, and it has a length 3/2 instead of 2. Okay. Now we see, what about V4? V4 is still not connected to my current set S, which consists of V1 and V3. So the label of V4 is still the same. It's still V1 and plus infinity. Okay, and here this guy is minimal, of course. It has 3/2, the other one has plus infinity. So I have to add it to my set of vertices. So now my set of vertices, which I have already used, so to say, is V1, V2, and V3. And the only guy which is not considered is V4. So I have to reiterate again, iteration 3 of step 2. Now I have just to look at my single remaining vertex V4, and now it's connected to my S. So my S now consists of all these 3 guys, and finally I have so let's see. So I have to go through V2, and V2 has now label 3/2, and the edge connecting V4 to V2 has length 2, yes, 2. So my total would be 3/2 plus 2, which would be, oh gosh, it would be 3 and 1/2. And now my S is now a full set of my vertices, which is all 4 of them. And I have to terminate. And the final set of labels would be, now let's see. So we have f of v1 is just v1 0, so you don't, it costs you nothing to go from v1 to itself. F of v2 is what do we have? Gosh, f of v2 is v3 3/2. F of v3 is v1 and 1, I think, yes. v1 and 1, yes. And finally, f of v4 is v2 3/2. 3.5, I'm sorry. Okay, now from this set of labels, I also know how to create shortest paths between all my vertices, because I can read it off. For example, what is the shortest path? How to find shortest path now? So shortest path, say between v1 and I don't know, v4, just as an example. I start with the v4, look at its label. It says v2 here, so I'm starting from v4 and I'm following this first label which I have. So in the label of v4 it says v2, so I have to go to v2. Now I'm jumping to v2. What does it say in v2? What is the element in the first place in the label of v2? It says v3. And now finally from v3 I'm looking at the label of v3, it says v1. So this would be my shortest path. So here I'm in this algorithm, I'm not just creating the set of distances, but I'm also creating a little bit implicitly the way how to create my shortest path between a given vertex, initial vertex v1, and any final vertex. So let me do. So this algorithm can be the same algorithm works for directed graphs. Yes, let me give you an example, a short example, and then we'll make a break, I guess. So I just draw something here. Let's see. Okay, that's just something I'll be putting weights here. So my vertices will be called A, B, C, D, E. And the length would be 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 1, 1, and maybe 2 here. Yes. I guess this is it. Yes. Okay, so my initial vertex would be L. Initial vertex is A. Sorry, A. So I'm initializing my set S would be A, and the labels would be f of A is A0, and for the rest would be A of others would be A in n plus infinity. So this is my initialization. Now I'm looking at all guys except for A and checking whether there is a directed edge now from A to those things. And yeah, if there is not, so the label will stay the same. If there is, then I'll be substituting my plus infinity, which is my current distance, by the length of the correspondent edge. So for example, f of b would be a and 1. F of d, f of d would be a and 3. F of c would be a and 1, and f of an e would be still a and plus infinity. I'm not connecting. I'm not connected immediately from A to E. Okay. And now I have to pick the minimal guy here, but there are 2 of them. But don't bother. Say, probably I can add them both at once. Maybe let's do this. I think if there are several elements of minimal length, we can add all of them at once. So let me take this guy and this guy. They all have distance 1, and let me add them to S, both of them. So my new S would be A, B, and C here. So A, B, and C. And the complement would be D and E. Now I'm repeating my thing again, but now I'm checking for the vertex D and for the vertex E. For the vertex D, my current distance is 3, but I had just one vertex A to work with. Now I'll be checking what about my distance to A, B, and C from D. So, and we see that f of D will change on this step, because actually the shorter way to D is through C. So if I go, I have distance 1 here, and then I have distance 1 here. So its label f of D would consist of go to C, and then the total length would be 2. And what about E? E is now connected to my current set S, which consists of A, B, and C. And f of E would be go to B, go to B. Oops, I'm sorry. No. It's since I'm in the directed situation, this edge is in the opposite direction. Yes. So no. So E is still not connected to the set A, B, C. It still has the same label A and plus infinity for the time being. But now, after this, so this should be actually placed in here. So my current set S would be, I have to add my vertex D, because my complement consists of D and E, and D has the current weight 2, and E has current weight plus infinity. So I'm adding D to my set. A, B, C, and D. Yes. And now last iteration. Now E is connected to S because there is this edge D to E directed the correct way. So the last step would be f of E equals, we can go to E from D, and D has current label 2, And this remaining edge DE has length 3. So the total would be 5. And now algorithm terminates. And the final set of labels is, so f of A is A0, of course. F of B is A1. F of C is A1. F of D is C2. And finally, f of E is D5. So, for example, the shortest path between A and E is, so we read it off here. So we start with E. E's first element in its label is D. We should go to D. We are going backwards. Or D, okay. Then from D, we're looking, should be C. From C, we should go to A. So edges should be directed that way. And I don't quite see my previous picture, but that's how it works. So it's a nice, simple algorithm. It's not a closed formula, but it's the best approximation to it. And for computers, it's extremely easy to handle such a program. Okay, let's make a short break for the moment, and then we'll continue in 5-10 minutes. Good. Let me stop sharing and let me pause my recording. Okay. So before I move to our second problem for today, let me just mention that the shortest path might not be unique. For example, if you have a graph, so with all weights equal to 1, it's usually that you can choose different paths of the same length between your initial vertex, which you work with, and the vertex which you consider. But the shortest distance is unique. What you will be creating during this algorithm is some shortest path between these two vertices. So when you are choosing what to put in the first position, sometimes you say might have several choices giving you the same length of the path. You choose one of those opportunities, and that means that at the end you'll be creating one of possible shortest paths between a given root vertex and a given arbitrary vertex in your graph. So, but this ambiguity usually doesn't affect anything. There is a small modification. If you can probably put multiple edges, multiple labels in the first position, and then you'll see all choices, how you can connect your given vertex with your initial vertex in all possible shortest ways. But this is a little bit more complicated, and we don't bother about this. Our second problem would be about spanning trees, so minimal spanning trees. And here, so we discussed last time that any connected graph contains a spanning tree. Now let's assume that we have weights, and we want to effectively create a spanning tree such that its sum of weights is minimal possible among all possible spanning trees. Again, in principle, a minimal spanning tree is not unique. It depends on your graph. In many cases, it is unique, but you can easily create situations when it's not unique. For example, if all weights of all edges are 1, then whatever spanning tree you take, its weight would be n minus 1, would be the number of vertices minus 1. And in this situation, any spanning tree would be minimal. But as soon as you have some kind of interesting practical situation, it typically is so that you have a unique minimal spanning tree. So the simple definition is, so given a weighted graph, so G, which is V, E, and the weight function, we say that its spanning tree is minimal if the sum of the weights of its edges is minimal among all possible spanning trees. It's a very simple natural notion, and as I said, in principle it's not unique. Okay, and I'll give you 2 algorithms how to find a minimal spanning tree. One is based on the choice of edges, and another is based on the choice of vertices. So the first one is due to a very famous American mathematician Kruskal. He's more famous for other things than this, but this is apparently very simple. Maybe it was his student paper he has done once. So given a connected, of course, if the graph is disconnected, there are no spanning trees and nothing to talk about. So we have to assume that our graph is connected, of course, given a connected graph G, which is, as I said, VEW, positive weights on its edges, do the following. So we are initializing zero step. Put our current set of edges is empty, and our exit condition is condition for termination is if the number of elements in S is the number of vertices in our graph -1, then terminate. So once we picked the number of vertices -1 edges, then we're done. Then our tree is created already. Okay, now the main step. It's quite easy. So find an edge in the set of edges minus our set of chosen edges such that let me call it this edge E maybe. So two conditions are satisfied. The weight of E is, well, okay, no, maybe let me, so the first condition I'll do something more important. Adding E to S presents or creates no cycle, maybe I should say. Creates no cycle. And the second condition, the weight of E is minimal among those satisfying the first condition. So when we found such an edge, so add E to S and reiterate the main step. And this is it. So it's really a very easy thing. Let me work it out for an example, and then maybe I'll discuss why this procedure actually leads to minimal T. Okay, I have a picture here, which is so A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So now I'll be putting in my vertices. And the lengths. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, something. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I have all of them. So say I have 5, 6, 5, 5, 4, 3, 3, 1, 3, 2, 2, and 7. And I think this is it. Okay, so hopefully this is it. So I'm starting with an empty set of edges. And now first iteration, I'll be adding the minimal edge, the edge with minimal length, which is EG. Yes. It has length 1. Okay. Now second iteration, I'll be looking for the remaining edges and checking which one has minimal length and does not create a cycle. So in principle, I have two choices here. I have the edge, this one, FG and DF. They both have weight 2, but I have to add them one at a time, not to create cycles. But we'll see, say, if I'll be adding first DE. Now, let's see. I'm sorry, I'm missing my weight here. Sorry, weight 2 here. So I have actually 3 possibilities. So I have the DF, this guy, I have DE, this guy, and I have FG, this guy. Good that I did my exercise at home. So say I'll be adding DE. I can add any other of them, and as the result, I might have got a different weighted spanning tree, but the total edge of the spanning tree would be exactly the same. So I'm creating one of those possibilities in principle, but whichever I create will have the same total edge. So I have EG, and say I'll be adding DE, for example. I'll be adding this guy. So now we have EG and DE. So what about the third iteration? Again, I can either add FD here or FG. None of this will create a cycle. Let me add DF. I cannot add both of them, because if I add both of them, I'll be getting a cycle. F, D, E, G, and back to F. But I can add one of them. Say I'll be my current S would be EG, DE, DF, okay. After that, I cannot add FG anymore. What are you looking for? So I don't have any edges of length 2 to add, but I have a wedge of length 3, which is, say, CE, which I can add to this. So let's see what we have at this point. So the fourth iteration would be I'll be adding EG, DE, DF, and CE. Maybe I should draw pictures of what happens here. So here we have just one edge, EG. So here we have 2 edges, EG, DE, like this. So here we have 3 edges like this. So after this step, we'll be having 4 edges, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, fifth iteration would be I'll be adding BE, I'm sorry, B what? B E. It has length 4, yes, okay. So EG, D, DF, C, and BE. Okay, so it will look like this. And then we'll be adding an additional edge BE like that. Okay. And so our total number of vertices from the beginning was, how many vertices do we have? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So we have 7 vertices. So we have to pick 6 edges. So we already have picked 5 of them. And now the last iteration would be, we'll be adding the edge BC to this thing, which has length 5. B. Let's see. One, two, three, not just to get confused. BC we cannot add because this will create a cycle. BA we can get. We can add this guy because this would not create a cycle. So our final S would be EG, D, DF, C, BE, and finally AB. So the thing would look, this would be, let me draw, oops, let me draw the final picture for you. Yes, so this would be A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, and the weights of the edges were 1, 2, 2, these, and then we have 3, and then we have 4, and finally we have 5. So we were gluing them in the order, of course, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this would be my spanning tree. Was the total weight of the tree is, so we can check it, 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. The total would come to 17. Okay. Good. And let me so this is an algorithm due to Kroskal, which is based on edges. So there is an alternative algorithm due to somebody called Prim, whom I never heard of, and it's based on vertices instead. Okay. So again, the input is a weighted connected graph, non-directed. And the output minimal t. Minimal spanning tree. Okay. So to initialize, so our algorithm is quite simple, but it requires, so the current set of edges is empty. We haven't chosen any edge yet. And the set of vertices, P, would be choose any vertex. Any vertex. I don't know, so V. So I'll start with the empty set of edges and any chosen vertex in V. And what we do in the exit condition is exit condition if P contains all vertices of our graph, then terminate. Once we picked all vertices of the graph, then the algorithm is over. Now the main step again is as follows. So minimize, so we have to find the minimum of weights of edges of the form, say, VW, where V belong in the current set P and W in its complement. And now, once we found this, add W to P. And add this edge VW to S. And then reiterate or go to exit condition check. Okay, so what we do is start with one single vertex, and we will be looking at all vertices which are adjacent to it and choosing the edge of the minimal weight. Once we found it, if it's non-unique, well, we choose any of those non-unique. So now we have two vertices and one edge. Now we'll be looking again, what is the minimal length of edge connecting these two vertices to the complement, adding it to our collection of chosen vertices and edges, and continuing. And once we hit all the vertices, so we are done. So let's try to do the same, use this algorithm for the same graph. So let's see if I draw it again. Let me draw it again quickly. So we have this thing here. So this was A, B, C, D, E, F, G with the length 5, 5, 6, 5, 2, 4, 3, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 2 again. So let me start with A. So S is empty and P is A. Let me start with A. Okay, so I'll be choosing from A, step 1. From A, I'll be choosing which edge has the least weight. So I forgot to, this should be 7. Yeah, now I think I have weights on all edges, hopefully. Step 1, so choose, so we'll be adding to S the edge AB, and P would consist of A and B now. Okay, now from the pair of vertices A and B, we have to choose the edge of the minimal length connecting it to the outside, to C, D, E, F, G. So step 2 would be, so we have to add, so the minimal length would be the edge BE here. It has weight 4. So S would be AB, BE, and the vertex set would be ABE. Okay, the next thing we see that from E we have the edge of length 1 going to G. Step 3, S would be AB, B, and finally EG. And our P is extended by G now, A, B, E, G. Okay, from G, we have Okay, so then we have two top possibilities. Either we can add an edge DE, for example, or we can add an edge E, whatever, GF. This will also work. So there is a small ambiguity here, but as I said, the minimal tree is in principle not unique. And we'll be creating, with this algorithm, we'll be creating one of those possibilities. Okay, now we have 5 vertices already, A, B, E, G, D, and we have just 2 remaining edges, 2 remaining vertices non-used yet, which is F and C, and so we can connect D due to 2 minutes. So we can connect D to F by vertex of length 2, which is very nice. So we're adding it again. So DF, and now our set of vertices is A, B, C. Oops, no, C is still not there. C, D, E, F, G. And we only have F left, and the final step. So we need to pick six vertices, 7 vertices and 6 edges only. Okay, so C is connected to the rest of them by either the edge EC or the edge GC, whichever we want to choose. This doesn't matter much. So let's choose, for example, let's choose CG. So we have A, B, B, E, G, D, DF, and say DF, sorry. And the last one would be CG. And then we're done. Terminate. And now if we draw all these guys, so the final answer would be, let me draw it for you. It would be AB, B, AB, AB, BE. This has length 5. This has length 4. Then we have EG. This has length 1. Now we have DE. This has length 2. Now DE, DF. This has length 2. And finally, I suggested CG. This has length 3. So what is the total? Total, I think it's not exactly the same tree which we got the previous time, but it is, it probably has the same total weight. So 5 plus 4 plus 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 3, which should be 17, and it is, yes. So, okay, good. Took a little bit more time than I thought, and I haven't told you why those algorithms actually work, but it's not such a complicated proof by induction on the number of vertices and sometimes on the number of edges. Okay, so this is it, and I'll send you the recording and I'll send you my notes soon enough. Okay, see you soon. Bye-bye.